The wagon came at dusk when the light turned everything the color of old blood. Jacob Mercer was mending fence wire when he saw it. A single horse pulling a covered rig, moving too slow for commerce, too deliberate for wandering. The kind of approach that meant business or trouble or both. He straightened, wiped his hands on his pants, and watched it roll toward his ranch with the stillness of a man who'd learned not to assume anything in this territory. The driver was a woman, middle-aged, thin as a rail, wearing a bonnet that shadowed most of her face. She didn't call out a greeting, didn't wave, just pulled the wagon to a stop near the barn and sat there, reins loose in her lap, staring at him like she was deciding whether he'd do. Jacob waited. Finally she spoke. "You Jacob Mercer?" "I am." "You the one they say mind his business?" He studied her. There was something brittle in her voice, like glass that had already cracked but hadn't fallen apart yet. "Depends on the business." She glanced back at the wagon, then at him again. Her jaw worked like she was chewing words she didn't want to spit out. "I got a girl in the back, 13 years old. Her family sold her." Jacob didn't move, but his chest tightened. Sold her? To a man twice her age, wedding set for Sunday. The woman's voice dropped. "She don't want to go." The wind picked up, carrying dust across the yard. Jacob could hear the faint creak of the wagon's axle, the distant lowing of cattle in the far pasture. He looked at the canvas cover, wondering what kind of fear it took for a child to climb into a stranger's wagon in the first place. "Why bring her to me?" The woman's eyes were hard, but there was something desperate underneath. "Because you got land, you got distance, and folks say you don't bend easy to the wrong kind of pressure." Jacob turned his head slightly, studying the horizon. The sun was sinking fast. "Who's the man?" "Name's Vernon Cates, runs a freight operation out of Banning. Got money, got influence." She paused. "Got a temper." Jacob knew the name. Everyone did. Vernon Cates wasn't the kind of man you crossed unless you were ready to lose more than an argument. And her family? Her father owes Cates for a loan. This is how he's paying it off. The woman's mouth twisted. "I'm her aunt. I tried to stop it. They wouldn't hear me." Jacob exhaled slowly. He wasn't a man who sought out trouble, but he'd never been good at walking away from it either. "She in there now?" The woman nodded. "Let me see her." The woman climbed down stiffly and moved to the back of the wagon. She pulled the canvas aside and Jacob stepped closer. The girl sat hunched in the corner, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tight around them. Her hair was dark, tangled, and her dress was dusty from the road. But it was her eyes that struck him, wide, dark, and filled with the kind of terror that came from knowing exactly what was waiting for her. She didn't speak, just stared at him like he was one more man deciding her fate. Jacob crouched down slowly, keeping his distance. "What's your name?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Lily." "Lily," he repeated, letting the name settle between them. "Your aunt says you don't want to marry this man." Her jaw clenched. "I'm too young to be a wife." The words hit him harder than he expected. Simple, true, desperate. Jacob straightened and turned back to the aunt. "If I take her, Cates will come looking. I know he'll bring the law, or worse." "I know that too," the woman's voice cracked. "But she'll die if she goes with him. Maybe not right away, but slow, piece by piece. Jacob looked back at the girl. She hadn't moved, hadn't looked away from him. He thought about his own daughter, gone now 5 years from fever. She'd been 10 when she died. He thought about what he would have wanted someone to do if she'd been in that wagon instead. He nodded once. All right. The aunt's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Jacob said quietly. This is just the start. He helped Lily down from the wagon. She moved like a deer, ready to bolt, every muscle tense, eyes darting toward the road. The aunt handed him a small cloth bundle. Clothes, he guessed, maybe a few belongings. There's a cellar, Jacob said, under the barn. It's dry, got blankets. She'll be safe there until I figure out what comes next. The aunt gripped his arm. You're a good man, sirs. Jacob didn't answer. Good man usually didn't end up in situations like this. The aunt climbed back onto the wagon, gave Lily one last long look, and snapped the reins. The wagon rolled back toward the road, disappearing into the gathering dark. Jacob stood there with the girl beside him, the weight of the moment settling heavy on his shoulders. Come on, he said quietly. Lily followed him toward the barn. Inside, the air smelled of hay and leather. Jacob lit a lantern and led her to the back, where a trapdoor lay hidden beneath a pile of old feed sacks. He pulled it open, revealing a narrow staircase leading into darkness. It's not much, he said, but no one knows it's here except me. Lily peered down into the shadows and looked up at him. Why are you helping me? Jacob met her eyes. Because you're right. You're too young to be a wife. She nodded slowly, then descended into the cellar. Jacob closed the trap door, scattered the feed sacks back over it, and stood there in the lantern light, listening to the silence. Somewhere out there, Vernon Cates was waiting for a bride, and Jacob Mercer had just made sure he wouldn't get one. Morning came cold and pale. Jacob woke before dawn, dressed quietly, and made his way to the barn. He carried a tin plate of biscuits, some dried meat, and a canteen of water.
When he opened the trap door, Lily was awake, sitting against the stone wall with her arms wrapped around her knees. She looked up at him, eyes red-rimmed but dry. "You sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. He climbed down and set the food beside her. "Eat what you can. We'll talk after." She didn't move at first, just stared at the plate like she wasn't sure it was real. Then slowly, she reached for a biscuit and took a small bite. Jacob sat on the bottom step, giving her space. The cellar was cool, the walls lined with old shelves that held jars of preserves and sacks of grain. It smelled of earth and time. "How long can I stay here?" Lily asked quietly. Jacob rubbed his jaw. "Don't know yet. Depends on how fast word spreads. My father will tell them I ran away, probably. They'll come looking, yes." She looked down at the biscuit in her hands. "You could just send me back. Say you didn't know." Jacob studied her. There was no self-pity in her voice, just exhaustion. "That what you want?" "No," her voice cracked. "But I don't want you to get hurt because of me." Jacob leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I've been hurt before. I'll manage." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back hard. "I'm too young to be a wife," she whispered again, like saying it made it more true. "I know," Jacob said simply. He left her there and went back to the house. The sun was climbing now, turning the sky from gray to gold. He made coffee, sat on the porch, and tried to think through what came next. By mid-morning, his neighbor rode up. Cal Brennan was a lean, weathered man with a sharp eye and a sharper tongue. He reined in his horse and tilted his hat back. "Morning, Jacob. Coo heard something interesting in town yesterday." Jacob sipped his coffee. Is that so? Vernon Cates is looking for a girl, 13 years old, dark hair, says she ran off before the wedding. Cal's eyes flicked toward the barn, then back to Jacob. Says her aunt helped her. Jacob kept his face still. That's unfortunate. Cal leaned forward in the saddle. He's offering a reward, $100 to anyone who finds her. Big money it is. Cal paused. He's also saying anyone who hides her is complicit, says he'll see them hanged. Jacob set his cup down slowly. Vernon Cates says a lot of things. Cal studied him for a long moment. You know where she is, Jacob? If I did, you think I'd tell you? Cal's mouth twitched, almost a smile. No, I don't suppose you would. He straightened in the saddle. Just thought you should know what's coming. Appreciate it. Cal tipped his hat and rode off, dust trailing behind him. Jacob sat there watching the horizon. The moral weight of the decision pressed down on him like stone. He could turn Lily over, claim ignorance, and walk away clean. Cates would get his bride, the girl would disappear into a life that would grind her down to nothing, and Jacob would go back to mending fences and raising cattle. Or he could stand his ground. He thought about his wife, gone 6 years now. She'd always been the moral compass in their marriage, the one who saw past convenience to what was right. She would have hidden Lily without a second thought. Jacob stood and walked back to the barn. When he opened the trap door, Lily looked up at him, fierce, sharp in her eyes. They're looking for you, Jacob said. She went pale. Are you going to give me up? Jacob shook his head. No. Her breath hitched. Why? Because you asked for help, and I'm not in the habit of turning away people who need it. Lily's face crumpled, and this time the tears came. She pressed her hands to her face, shoulders shaking. Jacob climbed down and sat beside her, not touching, just present. After a while, she wiped her eyes. What happens now? Now we wait, Jacob said, and we hope they don't look too hard. But even as he said it, he knew hope wasn't enough. By evening, the wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain. Jacob was in the house when he heard hoofbeats, multiple riders coming fast. He moved to the window and looked out. 5 men, Vernon Cates at the front, flanked by 2 ranch hands and a man wearing a deputy's badge. The 5th was Lily's father, hers slumped in the saddle like a man already defeated. Jacob stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand, but lowered. Cates dismounted, his face hard as granite. Jacob Mercer, Cates said, voice carrying across the yard. Mr. Cates, I'm looking for a girl, 13 years old, dark hair, says she ran off before the wedding. Cates' eyes flicked toward the barn, then back to Jacob. Says her aunt helped her. Jacob kept his face still. That's unfortunate. Cal leaned forward in the saddle. He's offering a reward, $100 to anyone who finds her. Big money it is. Cal paused. He's also saying anyone who hides her is complicit, says he'll see them hanged. Jacob set his cup down slowly. Vernon Cates says a lot of things. Cal studied him for a long moment. You know where she is, Jacob? If I did, you think I'd tell you? Cal's mouth twitched, almost a smile. No, I don't suppose you would. He straightened in the saddle. Just thought you... When he opened the trap door, Lily was awake, sitting against the stone wall with her arms wrapped around her knees. She looked up at him, eyes red-rimmed but dry. You sleep? He asked. She shook her head. He climbed down and set the food beside her. Eat what you can. We'll talk after. She didn't move at first, just stared at the plate like she wasn't sure it was real. Then slowly, she reached for a biscuit and took a small bite. Jacob sat on the bottom step, giving her space. The cellar was cool, the walls lined with old shelves that held jars of preserves and sacks of grain. It smelled of earth and time. How long can I stay here? Lily asked quietly. Jacob rubbed his jaw. Don't know yet. Depends on how fast word spreads. My father will tell them I ran away, probably. They'll come looking, yes. She looked down at the biscuit in her hands. You could just send me back. Say you didn't know. Jacob studied her. There was no self-pity in her voice, just exhaustion. That what you want? No, her voice cracked. But I don't want you to get hurt because of me. Jacob leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I've been hurt before. I'll manage. Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back hard. I'm too young to be a wife, she whispered again, like saying it made it more true. I know, Jacob said simply. He left her there and went back to the house. The sun was climbing now, turning the sky from gray to gold. He made coffee, sat on the porch, and tried to think through what came next. By mid-morning, his neighbor rode up. Cal Brennan was a lean, weathered man with a sharp eye and a sharper tongue. He reined in his horse and tilted his hat back. Morning, Jacob. Coo heard something interesting in town yesterday. Jacob sipped his coffee. Is that so? Vernon Cates is looking for a girl, 13 years old, dark hair, says she ran off before the wedding. Cal's eyes flicked toward the barn, then back to Jacob. Says her aunt helped her. Jacob kept his face still. That's unfortunate. Cal leaned forward in the saddle. He's offering a reward, $100 to anyone who finds her. Big money it is. Cal paused. He's also saying anyone who hides her is complicit, says he'll see them hanged. Jacob set his cup down slowly. Vernon Cates says a lot of things. Cal studied him for a long moment. You know where she is, Jacob? If I did, you think I'd tell you? Cal's mouth twitched, almost a smile. No, I don't suppose you would. He straightened in the saddle. Just thought you should know what's coming. Appreciate it. Cal tipped his hat and rode off, dust trailing behind him. Jacob sat there watching the horizon. The moral weight of the decision pressed down on him like stone. He could turn Lily over, claim ignorance, and walk away clean. Cates would get his bride, the girl would disappear into a life that would grind her down to nothing, and Jacob would go back to mending fences and raising cattle. Or he could stand his ground. He thought about his wife, gone 6 years now. She'd always been the moral compass in their marriage, the one who saw past convenience to what was right. She would have hidden Lily without a second thought. Jacob stood and walked back to the barn. When he opened the trap door, Lily looked up at him, fierce, sharp in her eyes. They're looking for you, Jacob said. She went pale. Are you going to give me up? Jacob shook his head. No. Her breath hitched. Why? Because you asked for help, and I'm not in the habit of turning away people who need it. Lily's face crumpled, and this time the tears came. She pressed her hands to her face, shoulders shaking. Jacob climbed down and sat beside her, not touching, just present. After a while, she wiped her eyes. What happens now? Now we wait, Jacob said, and we hope they don't look too...
But even as he said it, he knew hope wasn't enough. By evening, the wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain. Jacob was in the house when he heard hoofbeats, multiple riders coming fast. He moved to the window and looked out. 5 men, Vernon Cates at the front, flanked by 2 ranch hands and a man wearing a deputy's badge. The 5th was Lily's father, hearse slumped in the saddle like a man already defeated. Jacob stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand, but lowered. Cates dismounted, his face hard as granite. He was a big man, broad-shouldered, with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. Jacob Mercer, Cates said, voice carrying across the yard. Mr. Cades, I'm looking for a girl, 13 years old. Her aunt took her. We tracked the wagon this far. Cates' eyes narrowed. You seen her? Jacob met his gaze steadily. I see a lot of people pass through. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. The deputy stepped forward. "Mr. Mercer, if you're harboring a runaway, that's a crime." Jacob glanced at the badge. Runaway from what? A wedding she didn't agree to? Kate's jaw tightened. The marriage was arranged, legally. Her father signed the contract. Jacob looked at Lily's father, who wouldn't meet his eyes. "That's so?" The father nodded miserably. "And the girl?" Jacob asked. "She have a say?" "She's 13, Kate snapped. "She doesn't need a say." Jacob's grip tightened on the rifle. "That where we are now? Selling children?" Kate's took a step closer. "You got her, don't you?" Jacob didn't answer. The silence stretched long and dangerous. The standoff held like a drawn breath. Kate stared at Jacob, eyes cold and calculating. The deputy shifted his weight, hand resting on his pistol. The ranch hands spread out slightly, flanking the porch. Lily's father stayed mounted, looking anywhere but at Jacob. "I'll ask you one more time," Kate said slowly. "Is the girl here?" Jacob's voice was quiet. "If she was, you think I'd hand her over to a man 3 times her age?" Kate's face darkened. "You don't get to decide what's right, Mercer. The law's on my side. Her father signed her over. The contract's legal. Legal doesn't mean right. Right doesn't pay debts." Jacob glanced at the father again. "How much does he owe you?" Kate smiled, but there was no warmth in it. $300 plus interest. "And a child is worth that to you?" "A deal's a deal." The deputy cleared his throat. "Mr. Mercer, if you're obstructing justice—" "Justice," Jacob interrupted, his voice hard now. "That what you call this?" The deputy faltered, but Kate's didn't. He stepped onto the porch, close enough that Jacob could smell tobacco and leather. "I don't care what you think of me. I don't care about your moral high ground. That girl is mine by contract, and I'm taking her home. Now you can hand her over peaceful, or we can tear this place apart looking for her." Jacob raised the rifle slightly, not aiming, just enough. Kate stopped. "You won't shoot me," Kate said, but there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. "No," Jacob agreed, "but I'll make you blade before you get past this porch." The ranch hands tensed. The deputy's hand moved closer to his gun. Then, from behind them, a voice cut through the tension. "That's enough, everyone." Kate's turned, fury flashing across his face. "This isn't your concern, Brennan." "It is when you ride onto a man's land with threats." Cal's eyes were steady. "Jacob's got a right to stand his ground. He's hiding my property." "She's not property," Cal said flatly. "She's a child." The deputy looked between them, clearly out of his depth. "This is a legal matter." "Then take it to a judge," one of the other ranchers called out. "But you're not taking anyone by force, not here." Kate's hands curled into fists. He looked at Jacob, then at the men behind him, calculating odds he didn't like. Finally, he stepped back. "This isn't over." "Figured as much," Jacob said. Kate's mounted his horse, jerking the reins hard. He looked down at Jacob, voice low and venomous. "You think you're protecting her, but all you've done is sign her death warrant. She's mine, Mercer, one way or another." He spurred his horse and rode off, the others following. Lily's father lingered for a moment, opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, then closed it and rode after them. The dust settled slowly. Cal dismounted and walked up to the porch. "Are you all right?" Jacob nodded. "Thanks." "Don't thank me yet." He meant what he said. Cal glanced toward the barn. "She really here?" Jacob hesitated, then nodded. Cal exhaled. "Hold, Jacob. I know he'll come back with more men, maybe the marshal." "I know that too." Cal shook his head, but there was a grim respect in his eyes. "You need anything, you send word." "I will." Cal mounted up and the others followed. They rode off, leaving Jacob alone in the fading light. He stood there for a long time, listening to the wind. Then he went to the barn. When he opened the trap door, Lily was pressed against the far wall, eyes wide with terror. "They're gone. For now," he whispered. "I heard yelling." Jacob climbed down and sat on the step. "They'll be back." Lily's face crumpled. "I should go. I should just—" "No." Jacob's voice was firm. "You stay. We'll figure this out." "How?" Her voice broke. "How do we fight a man like that?" Jacob didn't have an answer. Not yet. But he looked at her, small, frightened, but still holding on, and knew he couldn't let her go. "We'll find a way," he said quietly. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. The storm was coming. Rain came that night, slow at first, then harder, drumming against the barn roof like 1,000 fingers tapping. Jacob brought Lily up from the cellar after dark when he was sure no one was watching the road. She moved stiffly, her legs cramped from sitting so long, and he guided her into the house through the back door. Inside, the warmth of the stove filled the small kitchen. Jacob pulled out a chair at the table. "Sit." Lily hesitated, then obeyed. She looked around the room, simple, clean, lived in. A woman's touch lingered in the curtains, the way the dishes were arranged, though dust had settled in the corners where no one thought to clean anymore. Jacob set a bowl of stew in front of her. "Eat slow, you'll make yourself sick otherwise." She picked up the spoon, her hands shaking slightly, and took a bite, then another. She ate quietly, methodically, like someone who'd learned not to take food for granted. Jacob sat across from her, sipping coffee, watching the rain trail down the window. After a while, Lily set down her spoon. "You have a family." Jacob's jaw tightened. "Had a wife, daughter." "What happened?" "Fever took my daughter. My wife followed a year later." His voice was flat, factual. "That was 6 years ago." Lily looked down at her bowl. "I'm sorry. Not your fault." Still, she paused. "Is that why you're helping me? Because of your daughter?" Jacob considered the question. "Maybe partly." He met her eyes. "Mostly, it's because you're right. You're too young for this." Lily's throat worked like she was swallowing something hard. "My mother used to say that girls grow up faster in hard times, that we don't get to choose when we become women." "Your mother tell you that makes it right?" Lily shook her head. "No, but she said it's the way things are." Jacob leaned back in his chair. "The way things are isn't the same as the way things should be." Lily stared at him, something shifting in her expression. Hope, maybe, or the fragile beginning of belief. "You really think we can stop him?" "I don't know," Jacob said honestly, "but I think we have to try." She nodded slowly, then looked back at the window. "I used to dream about running away, just getting on a horse and riding until I found somewhere no one knew me." Her voice softened. "But I never thought I'd actually do it." "You're braver than you think." Lily laughed, a bitter sound. "I'm terrified." Brave doesn't mean not scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway. She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time since he'd met her, some of the fear in her eyes eased. "Why are you so kind?" Jacob didn't answer right away. He thought about his wife, about the way she used to look at him when he did something right, about his daughter's laugh, bright and clear. "Because someone needs to be," he said finally. They sat in silence for a while, the rain filling the space between them. Then Lily spoke again, quieter now. "If they take me back, I'll run again, even if it kills me." Jacob met her gaze. "It won't come to that." "How do you know?" "Because I won't let it." The certainty in his voice seemed to settle something in her. She nodded, exhaustion finally pulling at her features. Jacob stood. "There's a bed in the back room. It's small, but it's warm. You can sleep there tonight." "What about you?" "I'll keep watch." Lily rose slowly, then hesitated. "Mr. Mercer?" "Jacob." She nodded. "Jacob, thank you." He didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. She disappeared into the back room, and Jacob returned to the porch, rifle across his lap, watching the rain and the road beyond. Hours passed. The storm didn't let up. Near midnight, Cal Brennan appeared out of the darkness, soaked through, his horse's hooves muffled by mud. Jacob stood. "What is it?" Cal dismounted quickly. Cates went to the marsher. He's got a warrant. They're coming tomorrow at first light. Jacob's stomach dropped. A warrant for what? Kidnapping, obstruction. He's claiming you took the girl by force. Cal's face was grim. The marshal's bringing 6 men. Jacob exhaled slowly. Hell. You could run, take her, and go. Where? He'll follow, and I'd be proving him right. Cal gripped his shoulder. Then you need a plan, because standing here and letting them take her isn't one. Jacob looked back at the house where Lily was sleeping, maybe for the first time in days. I'll think of something, Jacob said. Cal nodded, though doubt shadowed his ease. Yes, I'll be here at dawn. Whatever happens, you don't have to. I know. Cal swung back onto his horse. But I will. He rode off into the rain. Jacob stood there alone, the weight of the coming day pressing down on him. Inside, Lily slept, unaware of the storm closing in. Jacob tightened the grip on the rifle and made a decision. He wasn't giving her up. Not to Cates, not to the law, not to anyone, even if it cost him everything. Dawn came pale and washed clean by the rain. Jacob woke Lily before first light. She looked at him with sleepy confusion until she saw his face, and then fear snapped her awake. They're coming, he said quietly. Get dressed, stay in the cellar until I call for you. But Jacob, do what I say. She nodded and moved quickly, gathering her things. Jacob led her back to the barn, opened the trap door, and watched her descend. Before he closed it, he crouched down. Listen to me. No matter what you hear, don't come up, not until I call your name. Understand? Lily's voice was small. What are you going to do? What I have to. He closed the trap door and covered it. By the time the sun broke over the hills, Cal and the other ranchers had arrived. 7 men total, standing with Jacob on the porch. Not an army, but enough. The marshal came at dawn, just as Cal said. 6 men rode with him, Cates among them, along with the deputy and Lily's father.
The marshal was an older man, gay-haired, with the weariness of someone who'd seen too many bad situations. He reined in his horse and dismounted slowly. Jacob Mercer. Marshal? The marshal held up a folded paper. I've got a warrant for the return of one Lillian Brennan and for your arrest on charges of kidnapping and obstruction. Jacob didn't move. She came here willingly. That's not what her father says. Jacob glanced at the father, who still wouldn't meet his eyes. Her father sold her to pay a debt. That's trafficking, not marriage. The marshal's jaw tightened. That's for a judge to decide. Then let's go to a judge. Cates spurred his horse forward. Enough of this. You're stalling, Mercer. Hand her over. Jacob's voice was still. No. The marshal raised a hand. Mr. Cates, let me handle this. He looked back at Jacob. Son, I don't want trouble, but if you don't comply, I'll have to take you by force. Cal stepped forward. Marshal, you know Jacob. He's not a criminal. He's protecting a child. From a legal marriage, the deputy interjected. From a man who wants to own her, Cal shot back. The marshal looked tired. The law is the law. Then the law is wrong, Jacob said quietly. The words hung in the air. The marshal studied him for a long moment. Then he sighed. Where's the girl? Jacob didn't answer. Jacob, I want a judge, Jacob said. Bring a judge out here. Let Lily speak for herself. Let her tell you what she wants. Kate's face reddened. She's 13. She doesn't get a say. Why not? Cal asked, his voice cutting. She's the one being sold. The marshal looked between them, conflict clear on his face. Mr. Cates has a legal claim. To a human being, Jacob interrupted. You really want to enforce that? The marshal hesitated, and in that hesitation, everything changed. From behind them, a new voice spoke. Marshal Hayes! Everyone turned. A woman rode into the yard, older, gay-haired, dressed in plain black. She dismounted with the calm authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Mrs. Calloway," the marshal said, surprise in his voice, "what are you doing here?" "I'm here because I heard about this travesty." She looked at Kate's, her eyes cold. "And I'm here to stop it." Kate's face went pale. "This is none of your concern." "It became my concern the moment you tried to buy a child." Mrs. Calloway turned to the marshal. "I'm a circuit judge's wife, Marshal, and I'll be bringing this case before my husband the moment we return to town. If you enforce this warrant, you'll be complicit in trafficking." The marshal shifted uncomfortably. "Mrs. Calloway." "Bring the girl out," she said firmly. "Let her speak." Jacob looked at Cal, who nodded. Jacob walked to the barn, opened the trap door and called down, "Lily, come up." She emerged slowly, blinking in the sunlight, eyes wide. Mrs. Calloway walked over to her, knelt down so they were eye level. "Child, do you want to marry Mr. Cates?" Lily's voice was clear. "No, ma'am." "Did you agree to this marriage?" "No, ma'am." "Did anyone ask you what you wanted?" Lily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I'm too young to be a wife." Mrs. Calloway stood and turned to the marshal. "There's your answer." Cates exploded. "This is insane. I paid for her." "The contract is void," Mrs. Calloway said coldly, "because you can't buy a human being, not in this territory, not while I have breath to fight it." The marshal looked at the warrant in his hand, then at Lily, then back at Mrs. Calloway. Slowly, he tore the warrant in half. "I'll escort you back to town. Mr. Cates, you can take your complaint to the judge." Kate's face twisted with rage. "This isn't over, Mercer." "Yes," Jacob said quietly. "It is." Kate spat into the dirt, then mounted his horse. The marshal and his men followed, leading Cates and the deputy away. Lily's father lingered, looking at his daughter with something like shame. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Lily didn't answer. He rode away. Mrs. Calloway stayed behind. She looked at Jacob, respect in her eyes. "You did a good thing. Just did what was right. That's rare these days." She turned to Lily. "You'll come with me, child. I'll see you're placed somewhere safe." Lily looked at Jacob, uncertainty in her eyes. Jacob knelt down. "You'll be all right. Mrs. Calloway will take care of you." "Will I see you again?" Jacob smiled, small but real. "Maybe, if you want." Lily threw her arms around him, holding tight. Jacob hesitated, then hugged her back. When she pulled away, her eyes were still wet, but something had changed in her face. Hope, maybe even the beginning of peace. Mrs. Calloway helped her onto the horse, and they rode away together. Jacob stood in the yard, watching them disappear. Cal came up beside him. "You did good, Jacob." Jacob nodded, exhaustion finally hitting him. "We did good." 3 years later, Jacob was mending fence wire when he saw the rider coming. A young woman, now 16, with dark hair pulled back and a confident set to her shoulders. She dismounted in the yard and smiled. "Hello, Jacob." He straightened, recognition dawning. "Lily, I wanted to come back to say thank you." Jacob looked at her, no longer a frightened child, but a young woman finding her way. "You look well," he said. "I am," she smiled. "Mrs. Calloway helped me finish school. I'm teaching now in a town 2 counties over." Jacob felt something warm settle in his chest. "That's good. That's real good." Lily looked around the ranch, at the barn, the fields, the house. "I think about that night a lot, about what you did. You would have done the same." She laughed softly. "Maybe, but you went first." They stood there in the sunlight, the wind carrying the scent of grass and dust and freedom. "I'm too young to be a wife," Lily said quietly, echoing the words that had started it all. Jacob smiled. "But old enough to be yourself." Lily nodded, eyes bright. She stayed for supper, told him about her life, her students, her plans. And when she rode away at dusk, Jacob stood on the porch and watched her go, not with sadness, but with the quiet satisfaction of a man who's done what is right.
The sun set slow and gold over the hills, and the wind carried no threats, only peace.